I think we all, as parents, you're like, oh.
Yeah, but he's stepdad, and he's battling. Everything he has is uphill.
Mm-hmm.
And his home life, I come to find out, was extremely horrible. And so there's huge scars in his life, and there was a huge emptiness in his life. And so I think it played into. But so anyway, what I saw growing up was a man going to strip clubs, drinking scotch and smoking weed,
right,
and kind of doing insane whatever he wanted and spending all his money as it came in and having fun with life and saying, I think I'm going to die by the time I'm 40. If every year that I live past that is just bonus, is gravy. And I want to have as much, as soon as life is not fun, I don't want to be here.
Wow.
And so he died when he was 63.
Wow.
That's the
that
short.
Had
that's the
some
short
effect on you.
That's the short story of my upbringing. So that kind of like began my objectification and obsession with women, and my insecurity about my own sexuality and total confusion about sexuality and women, as far as like what's important and what matters and what's sacred and not. And so I thought dating strippers was cool, and I thought I wanted everybody to see me dating strippers and think I want people to like me. It was all huge narcissist and enormous focus on people liking me.
Right.
And so I dated strippers, and then that's kind of where the song came from. I was actually dating a stripper and at her house, and kind of had this inspiration that this was.
Wait, you're at her house?
At her
and you wrote
apartment.
The song?
Yeah. I mean, no, not. It's when the idea kind of came to me.
And so I did love it. Now her life's a sort of wreck. She seldom gets any respect.
Right.
Was that? Were you just kind of looking at her life, going like?
Well, yeah, because I invited her and her girlfriend, who was also a stripper, to one of our shows. And then my band was like embarrassed. I'm like, I thought y'all would think this is cool. They go, no, dude, you're freaking strippers. And I'm like, well, so what? That's cool.
Yeah.
And they're going, no, it's not cool. It is cool. Trust me.
It is very cool.
And you know, they're all
hilarious.
They're all falling out, you know, their dresses, and I'm just like, yeah. And my bandmates are just like all upset. But then one of the bandmates ends up dating that other stripper.
Of course.
So he wasn't that upset about it. But yeah, so it kind of basically watching them walk into a room and get absolutely no respect, just because that's what they're doing, and they were doing what they enjoyed it. They made tons of money, and they did their thing, and it was like that's cool.
Yeah. So did you ever follow up like what ended up with their life, or just?
I've always wondered. I remember the one specific. There's one specifically that I do know that I'm not going to talk about because it's just.
I knew there'd be something we go to a place.
Well, you don't want
to the edge.
Well, it's out of respect.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And the other one I haven't seen nor heard from since the day we stopped talking. But I've always wondered, because she was a very nice lady. She had a really good heart. But I just wondered.
How old were you at this time?
I was 25 and she was 35.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like that old chestnut.
Yeah.
So my life is a dirty book. Let's
well,
just
do
say
you
that.
feel like she had a rough upbringing?
I'm like from an article out of Playboy magazine.
You are.
She may have. I never took the time to find out or care.
So you wrote the song.
Very self-absorbed.
Yeah, you're self-absorbed. You're into women. You want everyone to think you're awesome. You wrote Big City Stripper. And I think was this also The Preacher at that time?
The Preacher. So I'm trying to write something cool. So at this point in the beginning of my writing career, I don't have any life experience with which to write on, and so from which to write on. I've got no stories.
Johnny
to tell.
Cash-ish.
Well, it's a ripoff. I stole from Johnny Cash and I stole from Willie Nelson.
Okay, well that makes sense.
And so it was like I was listening to that record, Willie Nelson's record that's got it was a time at the Preacher, and it's got. Gosh, it was what was the name of that record? It was killer. It just had all these great old Western songs that he had written, and every single one of them.
Yeah.
But listen to that and listen to Johnny Cash, and I'm like, I need to write a song about an old cowboy who's robbing trains and stuff like that. And so I wrote another one called Just Along for the Ride that was another ripoff. And but yeah, I was sitting out at my buddy's ranch and I had a really cool melody. Like the melody was a little bit different than anything else that I had been listening to, and I thought that it kind of set this tone.
Right.
And that ends up being the way that I write songs now. Is I'll come up with melodies, and the melodies will kind of find me, or I'll find them, and we get connected because of where I am. So if I'm really in a good mood, I'll find myself an amazing melody that's uplifting. If I'm in a really weird mood, sad, I'll find something that matches that, and then that melody tells me what the words are going to be. And so I kind of start there.
Okay.
And so this one was like that. And I'm sitting at a ranch in South Texas, and I'm hearing like voices and things going on out in the wilderness. And it was, you know, people coming over to hang out in America. And I got my dog with me, and it's totally black, dark out there, you know, pitch black. And so I plugged my guitar into the PA system that I'd brought down there with me, and I just start playing for all the fellas that were coming across, and they kind of like scattered. But I'm letting them know that I'm here, and don't come this way. Me and my dog are playing music, and so I'd sit there and serenade everybody going across, and I end up writing that song kind of like down there at the ranch. So
Okay, yeah, I love the kind of
Blue and blue and the preacher agreed.
yeah, when you see the preacher is not real, he clenches fists of rage and steel. This is the part that I was not sure. Are you talking about your gun here as the preacher, or and spits the fires of Satan at your soul, or are you just talking about the preacher wasn't a real, genuine Jesus follower?
Correct. Yeah, he wasn't a real preacher. He was actually a gunslinger, I think.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so
I haven't actually read the words in a while.
well, so how?
Yeah. I don't know. I was also trying to be. I was just trying to be cool.
Yeah,
and I wanted
of
to
course.
say things that made you go, "What's he mean? He's deep. He's deep. That's really cool."
Are you a Christian?
I am now.
When did you become a Christian?
I accepted Christ when I was 14. I was baptized when I was a baby, when I was an infant.
Yeah.
So depending on what faith you are, I've been protected my whole life.
You said you accepted Christ
At 14, I was 12 or 14. I went to Laity Lodge youth camps up in Kerrville and accepted Christ down by the Frio River. And then it didn't really take hold, and I didn't really do anything with it when I came home. And there was nobody in my house that was
Following Jesus, yeah.
Well, yeah, or cultivating that. And so I went off.
So
and kinda
when
did
did
my own
it
thing.
when did you go from big city stripper to Jesus follower? How did that transition? What's the story arc there?
This is the story.
I love it.
Now we're gonna go deep.
Now let's go deep.
So you know all about my objectifying women,
Mm-hmm.
and there was also this thought process in my mind that if I found the right woman, I had got into drinking and drugs around. Well, I was drinking and doing smoking grass and cigarettes all through my 20s. When I got to my 30s, I almost got married because I've always thought that finding the right woman would kind of like fix these issues. And I went to see a family shrink because I was eternally depressed.
Right.
And I used to go into, when I was 9 years old, I was in group therapy with 40-year-old men, including my stepdad, talking about life, having the old soul wherewithal to have conversations with them about life and death, right? So it's always been in me, and I've always just kind of been a pensive mess. And so I just thought that maybe if I found the right woman, that because I watched a lot of TV and I watched a lot of movies. And
right.
so
you find the right one, they fix everything.
it's just like the movies. It's going to be happily ever after.
Happily
and it's
ever
just going to
after.
fix all my problems. She's going to
Totally.
fix me.
That's how it happens.
Right? So I found somebody. I almost got married. And when we didn't get married, that's when I kind of went really crazy and started getting into cocaine and ecstasy and heavier stuff like that.
Is that when you started playing barefoot?
I was doing barefoot, I think, long before that.
What was the genesis of that?
That was playing at the Delt House in Austin on the grass out in front of their house. And it was like July. And I'm in my Red Wing boots and my jeans. And I'm sitting there and it's just sweaty. And I'm sweating into my boots. Like I feel the drips. I feel the boots filling up with sweat and my socks are soaking wet. And I just like took off my boots and took off my socks and rolled my jeans up. And I was like, this is so much better. And so it just kind of went from there.
Okay, I love it.
There's a whole other story. I had a preacher friend tell me that he said when was it Joshua had to go and take his sandals off when he was walking into the presence of the Lord. He says, you are on holy ground when you go on stage now because you're taking that opportunity to talk about Jesus when you're on stage.
Ooh.
So this rug that I play on, I have a rug just like this in every show. I take my shoes off to walk onto the holy ground because I'm up there representing and talking about him.
Wow.
Which I think is fantastic.
That
So
is okay.
I thought that was a cool.
Yeah. So you're 30. You're cocaine.
Back up,
You're
doing
crazy.
lots of drugs and getting and thinking the right woman's going to fix the problems, and I end up not getting married, going even crazier into it all, and wreck
At this
several
time,
cars.
lots of money at this point.
Lots of money. I had a Budweiser deal, had a Dodge sponsorship, and a clothing sponsorship, and we were making lots and lots and lots of money, and I was blowing every single penny of it, just like my stepdad would.
Yeah.
And just spending it on everybody, including myself, which is what my stepdad would do. So as much as I disliked him and we fought all the time, I ended up being just like him.
Right.
So I wreck several cars. I finally, and I get I get pulled over and arrested 13 different times in my life. So the 13th one was in, I think it was '04, and it was going northbound on Mopac up near Far West.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was 3 a.m. I had just, so I guess I can say all this now. So it's
Yeah.
just like, I got a blocking of a highway and a reckless driving or something. I ended up not getting the felony charge and I got arrested for DWI and possession of cocaine. And none of them, I got to do work to get them to go
Work
away.
release program.
Well,
whatever.
I had lots of probationary stuff.
Community
and
service.
Paid a lot of money and did lots of things, yeah. And paid my penance, so to speak. But I had gotten drunk on 6th Street, and one of the bartenders that I was friends with took my keys. And at the end of the night, I was so drunk that I saw her and I tackled her and took my keys from her. And then went across the street and got some cocaine, and then went to my car and woke up, and then decided to do my usual thing, which is I get on Mopac and I try to go as fast as I can up until 2222.
Yep.
Turn around and come down south, because if you're going southbound, you're going downhill. If you know that, and you can go faster downhill. So I'd go as fast as the cars would take me, which is usually 155. Most of them max out.
What kind of car did you have?
I had a Porsche Boxster S, I had a BMW M3, and then a Porsche 911. And so I'm going down. I'm in the BMW M3, and I'm doing 155, 160. Oh, that one actually could go 175. So anyway, I'm flying down Mopac, and at that speed on that part of Mopac, it's not made for that. There's a lot of this, and you can really quickly lose control. Anyway, I'm heading north to go to 2222 to do that, and I'm doing 120. And I passed by something that looked unfamiliar, and I thought, oh no, that's a cop. So I pull over. I get pulled over. I fail the test. Cocaine makes you think that you can do anything.
Right.
So I'm sitting there, and he goes, I can smell the alcohol on you. Don't tell me that you haven't been drinking. And he's like, you need to step out and do this test. And I was like, sure. So I stepped out, failed miserably, and then it ended up getting arrested and charged. And the judge was
13.
extremely kind. Yes, number 13. So that happens, and I'm thinking this is it. Like, I'm gonna clean my act up. And I lost my Budweiser sponsorship that day.
Ugh.
The next morning, I lost my Dodge dealership deal. I lost my clothing deal. I lost $30,000. And back in that day, I lost $30,000 worth of shows, which was the entire month's worth of shows. I had high schools and other things like baccalarettes and things that had hired us to play. They all canceled because of what hit the news. And they didn't want a guy that was on cocaine, playing it for their kids. And so it makes sense. And so it all came to a crashing halt, and I got obviously severely depressed. I cleaned up a little bit, and then I met my wife in April of 2006. So it was like a year later. I met her. And
Sherry, did she know that you were like?
She knew nothing of me.
She was kind of like
never
Katie,
heard of
had
me.
no idea.
She'd never heard of me. Never heard my name. Never heard my music. Never heard about what happened to me.
That's not
less than a year
convenient.
ago.
That is God. Like,
Well, exactly.
that's
She
good.
had no idea of any of this stuff, and so I'm thinking, this is the one that he sent me. Like, this is a great opportunity.
Right.
So I can be who I always known that I could be for her.
Yeah.
So I straightened up and I flew right, and I put my best foot forward, and I presented myself as I would hope that she would want me to be and who I wanted to be.
But were you honest about your past?
I was. Yeah. No. I mean, I was honest about the drugs and alcohol and stuff. I don't know how honest I was about all the womanizing and all the my I don't know that I was honest with myself about my addiction to women. And so that led into us getting married.
Yep.
And everything's great.
And so she was totally on board with like music life.
Yes. Yeah. She used to go on the road with us. We had a great time.
Yeah.
She'd come on the road. She's in her
she's
low
fun.
20s,
Yeah.
like 23, 24, and she's drinking and having fun with us too. And so we're all like safely and responsibly drinking and partying on the road, not doing anything crazy, but we're having fun out on the road, going town to town. And we get married. Fast forward, we never fought until we got married. We dated for like 2 years and never fought.
Same.
Then we got married and we started fighting, and then and I think I was faithful for maybe the first year, and then I began to mess up, and
by mess up you mean?
so then we got pregnant, and And then we had a baby, and then we got pregnant, and we had just had our second baby. So it was September 24th, 2012 was the D-Day.
Oh.
And our second was born August 7th of 2012.
D-Day is Discovery Day for her.
So it was a month after he was born.
Oh.
And I had I'd come home and she said that she knew something, that I had done something, and she needed me to tell her. And if I told her that we would have a chance, and if I didn't tell her, then we were getting divorced. And so I preface all this because I essentially like snowed her and you know, I fooled her, not fooled her, but I what's the word I'm looking for?
You masked a lot of
I lied about just kind of who I was and what I'd been doing.
Right.
And so I was dishonest in so many ways. And so
You lied about...
Womanizing.
So were you womanizing while you were
I was
married?
being unfaithful, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so she thought it was...
something.
No, you got to pick up the context clues.
She thought it was one thing.
I was like, hold on, what are we like?
It ended up being multiple things, and it was a really difficult day. We call it the best, worst day of our lives because I had to sit there and say, was it this? And she said, no. And I would have this supernatural release of pressure off my shoulders because I didn't have to hang on to that lie anymore and that secret, but I watched it go onto her shoulders. And so,
wow.
So much of a picture of Christ now. I can look back and see that, but it was just one thing after it happened. There were several, and so when we were finally done, it turned out being something that I hadn't done yet, that I had planned on doing, that she found out about. So at any rate, that's maybe too much detail, but
No, this
I
is...
go into the other room.
Yeah.
Clearly not enough details.
Yeah,
And I called my friend who was my first band member, and I said, man, I'm in a lot of trouble, and I think my marriage is over, and I don't know what to do. And so he met with me, and we started meeting every Monday, and I started going to these different men's groups and Bible studies, and I just dug in, and I was like, I realized in that moment when she asked me to tell her, I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I can get out of this, and I felt this kind of like warmth, and I remember visibly seeing a light kind of come through the ceiling of the kitchen, and hearing sort of this voice say, you need to tell her.
Right.
Tell her everything. And I'm of course I'm trying to get out of it the whole time. And I ended up telling her everything, but not because I was being obedient to God's calling, but sort of because of the nudging in that direction.
Yeah.
It's like I can't get out of it. Every time I tell her, she's saying, no, that's not it. So I don't know that I actually followed his
So you unloaded
direction.
a lot more than you
Way more,
planned.
way more.
Yeah.
But I unloaded everything.
Yeah.
And so I was able to start over. And
when she receives that,
killed her.
Oh.
And it killed, and so I'm thinking my marriage is over. That she said you'll have a chance if you tell me the truth, but I'm not really believing her.
Right.
So I start going and seeing my friend. I start going to Bible studies, and I started to decide. I decided that I wanted to know who Jesus was because I had tried everything else to fill that emptiness, and I never tried him. I was always afraid that it would be no fun to know him, and my life would just be,
boring.
Yep. And so I went all in, man, and we started watching Andy Stanley, and he was talking about guardrails for life. And I started realizing, and as I'm reading these books, I read Kingdom Man by Tony Evans, and I started realizing that I was everything he was talking about in this book. I was a total disaster of a man, and I did not understand what biblical marriage was. I didn't understand what biblical manhood was. I didn't understand who I'm supposed to be, but I had an idea. Like I said in the beginning, I wanted to be this great guy for her.
Right.
But I just wanted to be a great guy. I didn't want to be an honorable guy. I didn't want to be a righteous guy. I just wanted to be a good guy. The day that I told her everything, I felt compelled. And I went down the street where her parents lived in our neighborhood, and I confessed to them as well.
Wow.
And they forgave me. And her father went into the other room and came back with a pamphlet of a couple of pieces of paper stapled together, and it said biblical manhood on it. And it had all these Ephesians. It was just a bunch of stuff from Ephesians.
Huh.
And he said, this is for you. He goes, but this is not about you right now. This is about her. He goes, so you pull your bootstraps up, and you go home and you take care of our daughter.
Right.
He goes, don't you go back there being a victim and sulking because you've done something wrong. He goes, you need to take care of her and figure out how to make this right.
Wow. That was really great advice.
Beautiful men. He and my mother-in-law are wonderful believers. So through all the process of trying to I started analyzing myself, looking in the mirror and realizing what a mess I was and realizing what God really wanted for me, who God wanted me to be, who I am in his eyes, what marriage is all about, the sacrifice and all the sacrificial love. And just, man, it was like the Matrix. I was just downloaded with all this information, but I was thirsting for it. I couldn't get enough fast enough. Well, I changed everything about my life. I committed myself to him, and I prayed that he would break me and remake me every day.
Right.
And my mother-in-law used to tell me, be careful. She goes, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm glad you're trying to do it. But she goes, God is faithful, and you be careful of what you pray for. And I was like, I go, good, because I don't need to just break the house down. I need you to take the foundation and break it up.
Right.
And I need you to pour a new foundation and start me over. And so
all this time, you're still having to perform. Like, you're still, like...
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
Did you feel like you were living two lives?
Well, no, because when I'm performing, I quit drinking that day. I quit doing drugs. I quit doing everything that day. And I made new rules because of Andy Stanley. I was like, girls are not allowed on the bus. I'm not allowed to be alone with a girl. Girls are not allowed to have anything to do with my life. Like, I would just cut them off. So
did that have an effect, though, business-wise? Because usually that's part of the draw, or no?
Well, yeah, and I remember I used to get online and read what people would say and stuff, and there were some guys that were like, you used to party with us and drink and smoke and hang out with girls, and now you're not doing any of that stuff. I'm out. I'm no longer a fan. And I had that kind of stuff happen, and it was tough.
Well, then they weren't really fans.
Well,
in the first
exactly,
place.
and it's easy to say that sitting there right there, and it was a lot harder for me to take it in that moment. But I also knew that too. I knew that they weren't really my fans, and if God wanted me to keep doing this, he would provide for me.
Right.
And I'm learning. I'm a total freshman. I'm totally like green. I'm learning about Christianity. I'm learning what it looks like to walk. But I've been doing this I've been following him for 10 years. And it was a trip to a thing called Tres Dias, which is a 3-day retreat. And it was James Corbin was my sponsor, and he got me in there. And it was Sunday morning. We were there, I think Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I'm in the shower, and I'm just like, I'm scrubbing, and I'm looking at my hands, and I'm thinking, we've been through all these people have come and spoken, and we've gone through all these exercises and lots of prayer and lots of group prayer, and everybody's sharing what they're going through, and I feel like I've got the biggest, worst story, but I probably don't. But I'm just looking at my hands, and I'm thinking, there's just no way that I can think to myself and do that, and that just happened. That that's not by design, that somebody didn't create that.
Right.
Because I was having a hard time stepping into really truly believing that Jesus was the Son of God, and that God is real, and that all these supernatural things that are happening to me are not just coincidence.
Right.
And so it was in that moment, and I later read and watched a thing on Billy Graham where he said he was having trouble with a preacher friend of his, and
Charles Templeton.
He was going to go be atheist, and he wanted him to come with him, and he said he was struggling because he had great arguments for why the Bible wasn't true and why God wasn't real, and Billy was like convicted, and he just grabbed his Bible and he held it up and he said, God, I'm going to believe that this is your word on faith. And so before I actually saw that, I kind of went through that same thing. I just said, God, I'm going to believe that you are God by faith. I'm going to step into this right now, and I'm going to pray that you would make it to where I either know that you're really there and this is real, or I'm going to know that you're not. And I'm praying that you're going to let me know that you're real, because I want you to be real, and I want this to be real, and I want to love you, and I want to follow you. And so I did, and I got out of that shower, and I got cleaned up, and it's been an amazing up and down journey ever since.
Yeah. So talk to us about the up and down journey, because as married people, you know that it's not easy.
Yeah.
Marriage, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
It's the best challenge that there is.
I started crying earlier.
Well,
So I'm like trying to
bring it back together, Katie. Like, this is the part.
This is about you, Katie.
I just got teary-eyed hearing you talk about your
Experience?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I love hearing whenever people discover how loved
Awesome
they
Jesus.
are.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, so the journey's been like this. It's been a constant learning about who he is, and the love that he has, and the forgiveness that he has, and the mercy and the grace, and all these words that people will throw out there. But I'm experiencing each one of them in such an immense way, and I've come to a place in my life where I now leave the house to go play music, because it's an opportunity to say his name on stage and hopefully have a
Yeah,
conversation
how do you do
with
that?
somebody.
Tell me how you do that.
So it's now, there's a song called He Carries Me that Sherry and I actually wrote together.
Oh, cool.
And it's basically sometimes I stumble, and that's when He carries me is basically kind of the, let's see, it's, I can't ever remember the words to a song unless I'm singing it.
Hey, can we have him sing this song? Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. So
No. This is a great song. Well, how about we'll play it later.
The chorus it basically comes down to sometimes I stumble, and that's when He carries me. It's about the picture of the guy saying that he was looking at his life and talking with Jesus, and he goes, "Here I am,
Footprints in the sand.
Here I am, and there's 2 footprints in the sand, and now there's 1 footprint in the sand. Like, where were you then?" He goes, "Well, those are my footprints, and that's when I was carrying you because you were having a hard time in your life." And that hit me really hard, and so we put that song in the show every night, and before that song, John Carroll plays Nothing But the Blood of Jesus on his guitar. He just plays the melody of it, but he's finger picking it. It's really beautiful the way it's almost like a classical guitar version of it.
Oh, fun.
And while he's playing that, it's kind of like having when the preacher's kind of getting done with his sermon, there's somebody playing. It's kind of like that. I'll start saying, "Gosh, hey everybody, this is I've been at this for 28 years, whenever it is, and the first 18 years of my career was all about me. I had my thumbs pointed to the back of my jersey. I wanted everybody to love me. And what it was me trying to fill an emptiness in my life that I couldn't be filled by money and fame and people and things. But I kept trying. I finally came to the end of my rope. And it was there that I found something that did fill that space. And it was a love that's eternal, that's abundant, that's exceedingly beautiful. It's a love that you can't earn, and it's a love that'll never go away no matter what you do, no matter how bad you think you are, unworthy that you think you are. And if somebody's out there right now thinking that they're not worth it, that they've done too much wrong to ever be forgiven of, you're wrong, because I thought the same thing. And that love is named Jesus. And if you want to talk about it after the show, I'll be at the merch table. Until then, we want you to dance. We want you to sing. We want you to have fun. If you don't know the words, you can make up your own. So let's rock and roll.
Nice.
And we go out and we do that song.
I love it.
And so that's kind of how it goes every night. It changes. That's not verbatim. I usually wing it. That's me winging it right now. But
that was good.
Essentially, I just want them to know that. And then for a long time, I was saying you're loved. I would just say you are loved, you are loved, and you are loved, and you're loved by Jesus, and it's beautiful, and He can set you free. And if you want to talk more about it, come see me after the show.
This is a perfect example of ministry in everyday life.
Yeah.
And you don't need to work for a church or be a pastor or whatever it is to do ministry.
Go out and make disciples, right?
And
When that's the last thing He said.
No matter what it is you're doing.
So it's been my favorite thing now. So I leave the house because I have to leave all 5 of my kids and my wife, right? For 24 hours, 48 hours.
However long
it is. And whatever it is, the minimum is usually 24 hours. And so I have to leave them, and I miss school. I miss getting up. I miss going to bed. I miss dinner. I miss movies. I miss everything. And I say the only reason I'm going to do it because God hasn't provided me with another career, and I have desperately tried to show Him that there are other career options, but He's just he's very adamant that none of the plans that I bring to Him are exactly what He wants.
Right.
So I'm just like, okay, I'll stop trying to make this happen, and I'll keep going in the direction that seems to be where you want me to go, and we just keep committing, and He keeps providing. And so I say, if I'm going to leave the house, I'm going to say His name, and my goal is at every show, when I'm done with the show, that the concert and the stage are the opportunity, the vessel, and the catalyst to get me to the merch table. The merch table is the place that I'm going for every night.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's where people
tell
come
me about
up.
the conversations you have with
People mostly people come up and say, thank you for sharing your faith. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for saying Jesus' name on stage. We need more of that kind of thing. Mostly that's what people will say.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will come up and say, you said to come up here and talk to you if I didn't feel like I was worthy of God's love, and I don't think I am, and I want to know why you think that I would be. And I was just like, awesome,
man.
And so, and for the first, it's been 10 years, and so I'm much more comfortable in having conversations with people because I'm reading every day and I'm praying every day. My spiritual life is growing, but when I don't pray and I don't read, I have a difficult time talking with people because I'm not getting that actual real physical spiritual nourishment that I need in order to be there for these people, to be the information that they need, to give them the information they need. So, but man, when I am and I do, it's amazing because they'll ask me to pray for them, or they'll ask if they can pray over me, and I'll have conversations with people, and it'll just be like I feel angels, and I feel heaven just all around us, and I'll just hold on to people and hug them, and they'll hold on to me, and it's like I am not up on that stage to talk about me. I'm up on that stage because I want people to know what what set me free. I mean, I was gonna die. Like I was gonna lose my marriage. I was gonna lose my kids, just like my dad when he divorced us. My mom when I was 3.5. You know, I got to see him every other weekend, and he became my friend. And I didn't ever really have a father figure. I didn't have a male role model that was a father figure in my life because my dad loved my dad. He's like my favorite person in the whole world. But growing up, I didn't have him. He didn't talk to me about sex. I didn't know about. It was just missing. I'm lacking that male role model, and just having a father figure in my life was not there. And so, I can tell people like, it's possible to start all the way over, and you can forgive yourself and you can forgive others. And when you start to do that, then God can recreate everything in your life to a place that is just beautiful and is comforting and is joyful. And it can happen every single day, and you can walk in it every single morning and take it all the way through the night. And it's just
tell
fantastic.
me about the reality that hits.
What's going on over there?
Man, this is the most she's cried ever. Like usually she's like a rock over here.
She's just sad that she doesn't know about cassette tapes.
Yeah.
I'm sad I didn't know what a courier was.
Yeah.
Courier, cassette tape, all the C words are really throwing her off today.
Well, no, I was just thinking, like, I'm so glad that you didn't.
Try to keep the lie.
When you started talking about how you most of the time it's people that come up to you and say, "Oh, thank you for sharing your faith," and only a few, or rarely does someone come up and actually, it's the
Ask me
purpose
questions.
of yes. And so I loved that you didn't like make it seem like, oh yeah, people come up and ask me about Jesus all the time, and because like because God cares about the few. And so
So awesome you said that. That was in the reading yesterday.
I'm like, oh my gosh, don't cry. Just say it clearly. Like,
He cares about the one.
Yes, like
the one that's lost.
You're doing this for a purpose, and I think a lot of people would be like, oh, like it never really, like the goal of it is not really happening often, so maybe I just don't even need to do it anymore. But like continuing to do it shows that God cares about.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful you say that. The goal isn't to have somebody come to the table and talk with me about Jesus. The goal is to go out there and be available at the table
And be
every
obedient.
every day.
Mm.
And somebody will or somebody won't. But the truth is, I believe that because I'm making myself available and I'm committing that show and that time to him, that whether or not somebody comes up to the table, I'm trusting that he may be working in my bass player. He may be working on my drummer. He may be working on somebody in my crew or somebody that works at the venue.
Right.
I don't know. But that doesn't matter. I'm not there to tally that up. I'm there to be available and to say his name and to let people know that he loves them. And that's it. I mean, that's the seed, right? I got to have a bag. I got to have a handful of seed everywhere I go, and I'm supposed to drop it everywhere I go.
So let's just talk real quick about the marriage. So once you kind of rededicated your life to Jesus, no more marriage problems.
Right. Everything. And that actually I can say was just like a movie. It's just like we rode off into the sunset, and it has been incredible. I mean, sex has been good. Conversations are good. We haven't had an issue since. Katie, she spaced out for a second. She's like wondering, like, is she serious? No. So I have discovered.
I knew you're not serious.
There was watching movies and TV. I had the misconception that once you get married, it was going to be easy and it was going to be happily ever after. I really did. I thought you get married and everything's going to be blissful and amazing.
I think I thought that too.
Yeah.
And everybody does. And I didn't want to be just like every kid doesn't want to be. I don't want to have my parents or somebody older than me tell me that this is the way it is, because I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. I'm not like you.
Right.
I'm not like you.
I don't have as many issues.
I figure out how to do it differently.
Right.
You're old and you missed some things. I'm not going to miss some things. I'm going to figure out how to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I was exactly typical of everybody that came before me. And my kids are going to think the same thing, and I'm going to tell them the same thing my parents did.
Yeah, of course.
But
we all will.
The truth is, like, marriage is one of the most difficult blessings and difficult challenges.
Difficult blessing.
It's the most amazing blessing. I mean, like, it's the most worthy, difficult thing that I've ever been through.
I like that.
And it's the only, like, I chose her. She chose me. And when my kids come along, I'm tell them that. I'm like, look, like, I think, who said that? I think it was, who's the Pudding Pops guy? Bill Cosby. I think he said, look, I chose her. Y'all just showed up.
The fact we're bringing Bill Cosby in
Well,
this
there's all
day
this
is pretty great.
confusion about. I think the world, right? The world is run by the enemy. So the world is going to convince you of things that have a little bit of truth in them, but are mostly just there to distract you and confuse you. So the world confuses you and makes you think that your kids should be the most important thing in your life. And so what will happen a lot of the time is these parents will get together, they love each other, they have kids, and their focus is on their kids. All right. And so they're growing. Their marriage is like this. They have those kids, and they're, I'm going to focus on these kids. With focusing on the kids, and the kids move out. And where are they? They're over here instead of here. And some of the things that Chris has helped Sherry and I realize is that communication is key, focus is key, attention on each other is key. And so instead of focusing on the kids and having them be the number one thing in your life, you need to focus on your bride and focus on your spouse. And that's the number one. God's the number one thing. And you give yourself to Him. You live under His will, and then you commit and consecrate your marriage to Him, and then you commit and consecrate your children to Him. Right. But the order or pecking order is God, bride, kids, and everybody else.
Right, and that's hard because I've actually had to tell my son, like who do you love more, mommy or me? I said, mommy. She's like, you can't say that. I said, I just did.
That's right.
and I think that's important.
It's extremely important, and it, just like with anything else that's worth having, it's difficult. And so I tell my kids that, but. And understanding faith and understanding God's sacrifice for us is difficult. I mean, and taking a leap of faith to believe that Jesus was the Son of Man and that He died for our sins and rose from the dead and is seated at the right hand of the Father and like will be there eternally. Like that takes a leap. That's difficult. That's takes a leap of faith. But I found that that the marriage was extremely hard to get to a smooth and comfortable place where we were getting along. Right. And we would have patches, and then, man, pride comes along. Really, the biggest killer for me is my pride, and I want to be heard. And so better to hear than to be heard. And it's and humility was a word I never understood. So the first verse I ever learned was Ephesians 4:2. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. And the reason I chose that one was because it was on the sheet of paper that my father-in-law gave me, but it was also because it was really the first scripture that I ever listened to, and struck me square between the eyes, and realized that I am not humble. I am not patient. I'm not gentle. I'm not patient. I don't bear with anybody in love. Holy cow, I'm exactly opposite of what Jesus is telling me to be, of what God is telling me to be. I'm like, I am the anti-good guy. I'm like, I need to fix this. Like I'm going to memorize this, and I'm going to focus my life on turning it around and becoming those things.
So how did that come up? Like, how did the non-gentleness, non-humble side, like what things brought the friction where it surfaced
in the marriage?
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, it's everyday life. It's all kinds of stuff, but it would be, there would be maybe mistrust, or I would screw up. I would look at something and I would have that guilt of knowing that I did it and I didn't want to confess to her about it.
And how did you, when you confessed that to her, was she able to forgive you, or was she like, or is
most
it like
of the time, I'm telling you, man,
she's like a saint.
She's not like anybody else you've ever met, but she's also human, and not every single time was like this. But I would tell her, and she would, it would be difficult because she would flashbacks, and she'd be like, but she would forgive me, and we were able to move forward. And there was never condemnation. There was never holding it over my head. I kind of grew up in a house where when you screwed up, you were guilty for days. I mean, like you were grounded for days. Mom would give you the dirty look every time you came by. Like, I remember what you did last Saturday. I'm like, God, Lord, I thought that, can we be done with this? But I had to live in that shame for a lot. So I kind of grew up thinking that that's how you're supposed to handle things. And I'm learning along the way that the quick forgiveness and the quick grace and mercy is so amazing.
Yeah, she is like, when we've talked, I just so enjoyed her ability to love you, forgive you, and want the best for you, even when you're a butthole. Yep. Like that's absolutely right. That I thought was really kind of a cool experience watching her.
She's my hero for that. Like, she's my inspiration in being able to do that, to love people almost unconditionally. I mean, like, she really has this. You could call it naivete, but I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just purity. I think it's total, just a God.
Total God thing.
Yeah, just gentleness. She has that.
And usually I'm talking to couples in marriage counseling. I'm like, one of you has to be the adult, and she
would be the adult,
and she definitely steps up for that, which is just huge.
It's funny because she's 10 years younger than me, so
that is pretty fun.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of what's happened is me being able to look in the mirror and recognize when I'm being stubborn, when I'm being hard-headed, And I've learned a lot about the fight or flight
Yes.
part of a man's brain. When we get mad, things shut down and we can't think. And what happens a lot of, I recognize, I'll get so angry and I'll just be livid and I'll walk out of the house and I'm so mad and I'll walk out of the house and I'm like, Cory, what are you mad about? And I can't tell you. I can't tell you what I'm mad. I can't remember what happened.
Yes.
I can't remember why it is that I'm mad. I can't remember why I'm right and she's wrong. And then I just sit there and I have to go, wow, this is embarrassing. And God, forgive me. Help me have patience. Help me have peace. Help me forgive myself. And help me when I walk back in there to have humility enough to talk to her about this and get this right. So I turn around and go back in and I don't know why I'm mad and I'm sorry that I blew up. I'm just mad and I was just like living on being mad and I apologize for what I said. Will you forgive me and remind me of why I got mad? And she'd try to help me remember why I got mad. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got mad because I was embarrassed that you did this or I did that.
Right.
And I didn't know the answer or whatever the stupid reason was that I got mad.
I totally can relate
My brain
to that.
shut down.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times is me getting mad to the point that my brain shuts down and then I get ugly. And so that's been like a really big piece of it is when I can, this is a thing that I encourage men to do, husbands, is, and it works. And you don't do it like it's a tool, like you're going to pull out and shoot a bullet. Do it because you see it as a genuine thing, and it's another one of those things like love's a word I never throw around.
Right.
Remember that
Right.
Robert L. King?
Yep.
Don't use it. Don't throw it around. But when you feel motivated and you feel that it's a true motivation coming from God, and you ask Him that it's okay, go in there and get on your knees. I get on my knees before her, and I'll put my hands up, and I will just say, I did this, and I'm so sorry, and will you please forgive me? And just
Beautiful.
And it's from a penitent heart. You're on your knees, and but getting on my knees a lot.
Put you in the right.
It was just it set the atmosphere for my heart to actually be penitent and for her to be willing to forgive me. And because I'm down there, I'm in the most submissive position that I can be, and I'm doing it with a genuine heart. And she would, almost every single time, she never didn't forgive me.
Right.
I can't really remember a time where we weren't able to like walk through it once I humbled myself and was able to just be like, yep, I'm an idiot, and this is what I did, and this is why I act like a butthole.
I love it.
And it's hard, guys. It's hard for guys.
No, it
man.
is.
And it's really hard in marriage because you feel like you got
Is
to
it
hold
hard
your
for
ground.
you to? Because I feel like in your relationship, Ryan is the gentle, calm one. No.
Why does everyone think that?
Because he looks gentle and calm.
Well, yes, socially.
So he's not? Is he the one that gets angry?
Oh, in our fights, he's the one that gets angry, and I'm the one that shuts down and cries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then how's it all work out?
I have to give him space to calm down.
And then what happens?
And then we come back together and make up.
Oh, that's good. All right. So how about with children? Yeah.
Happily ever after.
Yeah, happily ever after.
Lord, I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah. So I feel like the 5 kids.
Oh.
Wait, go ahead.
Yes. Well, one of the things I wanted to say was, and it led to a song that I just written. So,
Oh, good. This will be fun.
well, I'm going to jump ahead, and I don't know if you're going to ask these questions, but my music has changed
Yes.
significantly. And one of the same guy that told me that I'm walking on sacred ground also asked me in the very beginning of my walk. He's like, "So are you going to become a Christian singer and stop playing in the bars and the honky tonks and singing songs about all those things?" And I looked at him and I was like, and at that time I'm thinking, I'll be broke if I do. Like I'll lose my career because that's like those people want to hear those songs, right? And that's the only place I have to play. Like I'm not going to make any money going to.
But
play
God's
at church.
using you there.
Huh? Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and somehow I also knew that. I was like, well, no, I'll lose my audience. And he goes, yeah, I can't believe I even asked you that. He's like, what a moron. He goes, those are the people that need to hear the word of God more than the guys of the church. He's like, of course you're not going to quit doing that. And so he like slapped himself. We've become
people that
immensely
already love
close.
Jesus go to Christian concerts.
And so that's what's been beautiful. And so but the music that I've been writing has changed, and it's gotten to. So I'm not necessarily writing Christian music. I'm a Christian writing music that fits my genre. But I always have words and themes and ideas and a direction in the music that has sustenance to it. There's meat in it, and I want it to say something. I want it to get you to think for a second.
Yeah.
I don't want to just listen to "Don't Tell My Heart," my achy breaky heart. I want it to be. I want there to be something where you stop for a second and you look in the mirror and you think about what am I doing with my life.
Right.
And so the music has grown in my ability to tap into hearing what God's got to say and what He wants me to say has gotten better. And So one of the things that I think is really one of my favorite songs that I've written, usually the newest one that I've written is my favorite, but it's called Still Learning You. And it goes back to that idea when people get married, they're like this. When they have those kids, they go like that. And so what happens, I think, is that you stop studying each other. So when you're dating,
Yep.
you want to know everything about that person. You want to know their favorite color, favorite food. And so you're on study mode, and they're
getting your PhD
they're
and your
the
girl.
topic.
Yeah.
You're getting your PhD and your girl. And so when you get married, you think, oh, I aced the class, and the class is over.
Yeah,
Because I
you
aced
already
it,
know them.
and you stop studying.
I already know all
And,
that.
and what happens is the course is not just a fixed course like back in the, things are changing. People are discovering new things. Science is discovering new things. Well, your bride is changing. Your spouse is changing, and they're discovering new things, and they're becoming more different than when you married them. So they're growing.
Right.
Well, they're doing this, and if you're still here, they're doing this, and you've stopped studying. So I say, study your bride, study your husband, study. And learn, continue to learn them, keep asking them questions, keep going out and digging in.
Yeah.
And so instead of just getting a PhD, now you can get a doctorate, now you can get a master's, now you can become a professor, and you can go around the world and give sermons on them, stories on them.
There you go.
And so that idea led to you need to continue to learn about them. So it was, the song's called Still Learning You. And
Are you going to play that one for us or what?
I think I could. I haven't played it in a while.
Can
but,
we have him play for it?
But yeah, it's I love that idea, and I talk to people. I think it's really important in marriage. Like, if you're going to get married and you're going to have kids, your life can't be about those kids. Your life has to be about God and each other. And everything that you learn about God and each other is going to flow into those children the right way, and you just trust and give it to Him.
There's a marriage journal that we do, and on the back of it, it's got a quote like from the authors, and it says love is to find and still seek.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Amen. That's it.
That was very fine.
So
So sick. I like that.
It's good. So the five. What you asked about the 5 kids?
Yeah, we're gonna listen to that song in a sec. But I wanted to hear about because managing your temper with children is equally as hard. At least I've found that.
It's harder.
Yeah,
I feel like.
because you have all of your own genes and DNA coming back at you. So how do you manage that? Just like when the anger comes and you just want to respond in anger or discipline in anger or whatever, like how are you managing those relationships?
I'm not always as successful with that. I'll yell, and then I have to go back and apologize to them because my son's standing he's in his underwear doing the Captain Morgans, in the living room with his hair soaking wet, and he's listening to my wife and I talk about one of his friends' moms, and it was just like we turn around and he wasn't eavesdropping. He was waiting for us to finish so that he could ask us a question. Well, I thought he was eavesdropping, and I just unloaded on him, and he was just like, and he just started bawling, and he told me, he goes, I was waiting to ask you, like, what's the temperature going to be like outside? What should I wear? What am I supposed to wear? And I was just like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, I think it comes back to humbling yourself and confessing.
Yeah.
It's just constant, man. That's an everyday thing. You need to be doing it with each other and with your kids. And so, as far as all that goes, man, I'm also the other thing that sometimes that we get it right. Most of the time, I don't feel like we do, and we have to go back and confess. But I feel like I'm such a big kid that a lot of times I don't want to yell at them and get mad at them. I kind of want to okay, just don't do it again.
Discipline can be.
You're all right. Discipline's hard, but we definitely discipline.
I feel like I kind of go to both of those ends because I want to be like the buddy at times, and then I want to be like the super disciplined. And so it's hard to find that middle.
And you're not supposed to, but it's just like you have this draw to be their friend. I
Yeah,
don't want
'cause
them,
it's so much fun.
them to be scared of me, or upset, or mad, or disappointed. But it's supposed to be caregiver, cop, coach, counselor.
Nice.
Those are the 4 C's of parenthood.
Oh, I like that.
That's right. So when they're babies, caregiver. When they get a little bit to toddlers or infants, you're a cop. And when they get to be a little bit older, you're their coach.
Yep.
And when they leave the house, you're their counselor.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's really
Cop
good.
when they're toddlers.
Yeah, when they're toddler, 'cause
you're policing them. You're like, nope,
That's
you're not
all
allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that.
constantly
That's all
teaching
she
them.
does right now.
Yeah, you're a cop.
Officer Katie,
You can be a coach when they get old enough to actually take the information that you want to give them to teach them. It's like, preteen, teen, all that through his coach. And then coach will be probably through their 20s as well. But do you know that now I heard this, but I'm going to assume that's right because the guy seems pretty reputable, but your frontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 25 years old, right? And yet We are allowed to drive cars at 16, which
Yep.
takes an enormous amount of thought.
Yes.
And then we're allowed to vote and kill for our country at 18.
Right.
Not allowed to drink until we're 21.
Yeah, that's probably good.
And then our insurance goes down when our frontal cortex is finally fully developed.
That is true. Isn't that wild?
It's so smart.
It's
It's good. I think it's smart.
yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, so we jumped into politicals now.
Yeah.
Politics, am I right?
Hey. So who'd you vote for?
Reagan?
Yeah, there you go. Reagan. I loved Reagan. He was so good.
Right.
Trust but verify. Yeah, 84, baby. And 80. You know,
Roosevelt. I voted for Roosevelt.
that's
Okay.